I really don't want to talk about it. Nevertheless, we got to talk about it. Jaylon Smith. Now, the story is wonderful. The story of Jalen Smith is flat out wonderful. Nice guy. Nice guy. You really can't find negative things to say about Jalen. Nevertheless, this is football. Now, I do know when we look at his stats, he had 50 solo tackles, which is good. 0.5 as it relates to sacks, what have you, for this 2020 season. And I think he got north of, 89, maybe 90 tackles altogether. And I know a lot of people would look at that stat line and say, hey, he's one of the better tackles as it relates to linebacker play in the National Football League. But the trade-off is that he was one of the worst coverage guys. He can't cover. Now, I'm with the belief that the Cowboys should utilize him in a different fashion. Maybe have him running downhill, chasing, getting to the quarterback, and just make him a specialist. Now, I know it's hard for the Cowboys to build a plane while it's in the air, and we do know that rumors are rumors. But when there's smoke, there's fire, right? So if they put this on this kid to take the pay cut and he refused to take the pay cut, then that's just on the Cowboys. And I think that we just need to look at everything at face value and go ahead and make that department. Now, here's the situation. Jalen Smith maybe on another team will show up and show out. We've seen this happen time and time again in Cowboys land, right? A player that we thought that was just all to damn, and then he goes to another team, but they use him in a different fashion. And they start showing up and showing plays, and people will say, hey, look at this guy. Now, all of a sudden, they're making plays. That's just how it goes with the Joneses, right? We refuse to make things happen during the season when it need to happen. Now, off-season, maybe, just maybe, they'll make those things change. But we do know that without a shadow of a doubt, this team, when we go through the drafting scenarios, it's okay with that. And I really can't get mad at the way we draft. Nevertheless, when we start talking about complementary or adding pieces to the puzzle as it relates to the other forms of acquisitions, trade, free agency, I think that is where the Joneses drop the ball. I really do. And just like with the Taco Charlton, just like with the other scenarios that I can bring up, it's not the fact that those guys not live up to their status quo, but it's the fact that we hold on to players so long and we get no trade value from said player. We let players walk or what have you and go to other teams, and then we lean on compensatory picks. For example, the Cole Beasley situation. I would think that you would probably want to move from that contract a year early so you can get something in return, so that when it's time to pay a person, you won't try to hold their feet to the fire, right? Meaning that, hey, now they're asking for this type of money. What the Cowboys need to learn how to do is get rid of said player right before they start asking for the money. Use some type of leverage. Stop paying players too soon. I said playing, but you guys get what I'm saying. So let's listen to what they had to say on 105.3 The Fan about Jay.
When it comes to Jalen Smith, he's obviously been disappointing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talked about it last week on the show, Sean. You weren't here last week, but glad to have you back this week. But I was asked a question, I think, by Will last week of who was the worst contract on this Cowboys team. And I first, of course, the easy answer is Zeke. I think the better answer might be Jalen Smith, though. And so I think whenever it comes to the disappointment that he's given you on that side of the football, it's pretty easy to point fingers at him to say we need to make a change here and we need to figure something out quickly because he's obviously not been worth the money. So the fact this report is surfacing doesn't surprise me at all. Like I said, haven't confirmed anything, but he's got to play better if he's going to play up to that contract, and we just haven't seen it yet.
Do you buy into the theory that Jalen Smith got his extension because of Zeke's holdout?
Wow.
No, not necessarily. I think it was more so just jumping the gun based off of progress or expected progress. Is they were trying to get a deal. They were trying to get a deal done because they thought he would continue to progress at what he looked like prior to his initial injury at Notre Dame. I mean, before his injury at Notre Dame, he was a top 15 pick. And he looked like a guy who was going to be a legitimate star in the NFL. Then you got 2018 Jaylon Smith, and you saw, hey, okay, maybe this guy can be that star. Maybe he has worked his way back, and he's going to find a way to continue progressing, whereas 2018 was the peak. And that's something that scares you right now with this contract, because whenever you went back and signed it in 2018, your hope was he was going to continue to grow as a player and continue to improve to the point where he was a cornerstone, legitimately, I use that word on purpose, of your defense. Then that didn't happen. It completely went the other direction. He's continued to regress and at times just finds himself lost, which you can't do, one, as a veteran in this league, and two, with a contract the size of his. And I think that's kind of where they got hurt. They jumped the gun thinking and making an educated guess of this is where he could be in the next couple years, and ultimately that just didn't work out.
Now, when we're talking about making the educated guess, this is not their first time doing this. Remember the Tyrone Crawford scenario. They thought that he was going to be the next best interior defensive lineman, so they paid him heavenly so, and trust me, not like Tyrone Crawford was asking for the money, but he was like, oh, you going to give me the money? I will take the money. And the same could be said about even La'el Collins, right? And La'el Collins did showcase some level of great right tackle play. Now, we're not able to benefit from it this year because of his injury, and we can go back and forth whether or not he was out of shape or whether or not it's an actual hip scenario. So which contracts are bad or what have you, this will still be up to how these guys going to live out through the remainder of their contract. Talking about La'el Collins' contract, Jalen Smith, and as well as Ezekiel Elliott. Now, here's the thing. I know Cowboy fans, we are very, very toxic, and we are in our feelings because you can't say nothing wrong with Ezekiel Elliott, because first thing they're going to say is that it's the offensive line. And I can't give no other running back praises like the Dalvin Cook. I said the other day, believe it or not, like Ripley's. I said, man, Dalvin Cook is explosive, the way he run in and out of his cuts, and especially even in the backfield, and he find ways to cut around the edge. Man, that boy's amazing. The next statement from anybody will be, man, stop hating on Zeke. And I'm like, what? I'm just talking about Dalvin Cook. But that's just how it goes. Look, you evaluate the game and you look at every player game by game. Now, I do know that people will look at this situation and say, well, what they did 2 weeks ago, or what they did 2 years ago, or look what they did in college, or what have you. It's this and it's that. But this is about football. You should have the mindset as a coach to tell everybody that's on your team, my job is to replace you. Let me repeat, my job is to replace you. And I'm looking for somebody better than you each and every day, starting from the quarterback all the way down to the person that's even handing out towels and the water boy or water girl. I'm looking to replace everybody. Your job is always on the moment within the fires, because I'm always trying to get better, and I'm going to see who want to really earn that star and who really want to earn to play for the Dallas Cowboys. But we don't have that type of mentality. This is a gentleman's club / what do you want to call it? It's not Camp Cupcake, but this is always the situation where it's, hey, this is a place where you can just go for vacation. There's really no, hey, you mess up, you gone type of scenario outside of maybe Dontari Poe. And I can go down the line, of course, with the Worldies of the worlds, but that's the first time in a long time. But none of those guys would raise eyebrows to everybody that's on his team if you cut him. Anyway, they didn't really have long stays on this particular team. Nevertheless, let's listen to more of what they got to say.
If it's true, and I think we all kind of hope it's true, right? Do you know how horrible it is? Do you know when they gave Jalen the contract? You have any idea? Do you remember? I didn't look it up. Do you remember when they gave it to him?
Wasn't it like in it wasn't during the season. It was like in May, wasn't it?
It was in August. But August of when?
2019.
August of 2019. And we are sitting here talking about ripping it up.
Regardless of how everything unfolds, You know, we love this team and we want the best out of this team. I'm not all the way saying you get Jalen Smith out. I'm not that guy. I think that he still got some traits that I would like to see showcased before they pull the trigger on Jalen. Same could be said with Ezekiel Elliott. We still have to put that placeholder on there because now we can talk about the offensive line or what have you. And those are the two guys that their contract kind of shined a negative light, regardless of the skill of play. The contract, knowing that you're paying all of those coins and the level of activity that you get from that is not great as it relates to return, if I can say it in those fashions. So I'm going to put, the pump the brake sign up on both of those guys, Ezekiel Elliott and as well as Jaylon Smith. And Lyle Collins, of course, we just got to wait and see with that. And the just way is going right now with the Joneses and with whoever handling the funds over there. And this is not me hating on the Joneses because I get that all the time. Man, you hate the Jones. No. We love them, It's just the fact that when we look at everything as it relates to the front office and the way it's time to pay these guys and other things like the acquisitions as far as trade and pickups and stuff like that, we kind of scratch our head. We like, man, come on. It's been 25 years. And one can argue and put it out that is going to be 26 years and nothing changed. All we've been doing is just rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. This thing been going down year after year. When are we going to make the proper moves? When are we going to make the proper evaluations? All right, Cowboy Nation, that's all the thoughts. That's all my time. I want to know yours. Post them down below. And let's figure this thing, see how this thing can all shake and roll from here. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Let's go. Salute.
Outstanding.
Do you know how horrible it is? Do you know when they gave Jalen the contract? You have any idea? Do you remember? I didn't look it up. Do you remember when they gave it to him?
Wasn't it like in it wasn't during the season. It was like in May, wasn't it?
It was in August. But August of when?
2019.
August of 2019. And we are sitting here talking about ripping it up and moving on past it in November of 2020. You know how terrible that is? You know how awful that makes the front office look? You gave Zeke his money. He didn't have the leverage on you. You paid Jalen. For those that don't know, the theory, the conspiracy theory is that Jalen did it, that Jerry did it to kind of scare Zeke because they kept saying, hey, it's more value to be a Dallas Cowboy. You know, you can push your cryo here. You can put your sunglasses here. You can make millions and millions off other products, and therefore you should take a better deal with us on paper because we're affording you the luxury of using the star in your own promotion and your own brand. Mm-hmm. And look at Jalen. Jalen did it. Jalen stepped to the table, and now we're sitting here 1 year later talking about the second half of this season determining his fate. That is the definition of a horrible, horrible front office decision and move. Bad.
Oh, big time. There's no doubt about that.
Jeez.
I mean, it was $35 million total guaranteed. $35 million total guarantee, that deal.
And I think 19 of it is already paid. You either take the pay cut or bye-bye, see you later. I would actually give the Cowboys a little bit of credit for cutting their losses and admitting a mistake quickly if they did indeed do this after the second half of this season.
You know what he is?
Horrible.
He's the only linebacker I can count on to be healthy.
True.
And that's
not
saying
enough.
something. That's saying something considering where he came from with the injury.
Yeah.
All right, he's the only one that I know is pretty much going to be out there every week.